70.1.
Well, I'm going to start by saying Rick ruined the pants as I predicted.
No, the pants are a work in progress. The deal is that to dye black a different color, you got to take some of the color out, which I did. But then to put it back, it turns out these aren't cotton. They're probably polyester. To dye polyester, you have to boil it in the dye for 2 hours, which I just got off a frickin' plane, and I didn't have time to boil my pants. So by next week, my pants will be boiled, and the color will be back, purpley.
All right. Well, I think this is. I have no confidence in you whatsoever. Let's go on to what is the subject today that you...
Oh, as I said, usually we have a story conference, and talk about what we're going to talk about, but we didn't have time because I just got here from the airport, visiting I'm not young, so you can imagine my parents. They are very not young. So I just did I do a triangular trip. My mom is in Boulder, my dad's in Albuquerque, so I just got back from one of those. But I was thinking, this was prompted by, I've been seeing a lot of TV ads now where they sneak in really fast imagery of women with women and dudes with dudes. They'll show a bunch of happy people doing, enjoying T-Mobile or Audis or whatever, and among the people, when they do a quick montage, I saw a commercial that had two dudes making out with each other, and I'm not bugged by it, and apparently, the advertising clients are notoriously skittish. They always have notes, but apparently, American industry has decided that there's more money in showing dudes with dudes and women with women than not. And that led to the more general question that I'm going to ask you, which is, how are you going to stand up to the tide of frickin' history, which is, what did Martin Luther King say? The curve of moral justice, bends towards whatever. It's like, the deal is, as the future comes along, none of the characteristics that you find so important, like whether people are straight or gay, and the color of people, and all that stuff is going to be modifiable.
When did I become a racist?
No, that's not exact, but you don't like you're not, you want a tight border. You find that I know it doesn't have to do with race. It has to do with people who you don't think belong here, coming into the country and using up, and going on welfare or whatever. But you're not racist, except that you listen to who's that Molyneux guy, Stephen Molyneux, you listen to guys who like to argue that different races have different average IQs, which is a creepy racist and not well-supported thing. But in general, though, all the things and you find more, you'll argue the opposite, but I mean, you find a lot of in the current framework. You guys like to say otherwise, but
I don't listen to Stephen Molyneux because of his views on IQ, and different countries have different IQs. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, but it's that kind of shit is mostly horseshit. I mean, yeah, you can say different, that if you took a bunch of people from different countries and you gave them regular IQ tests, some countries would do better than others.
Mm-hmm.
But then people like to argue, well, it's because of something in the genes that, You know, that when people have different colored skin or different eye folds or whatever you want, that somehow that's tied to different, like, thinky genes.
I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing anything.
You're not that,
I'm
but like that. Charles Murray and those guys like to argue that shit.
What is the problem with different groups having different IQs?
Well, for one thing, like...
Why does that make you a racist? Maybe there's supporting evidence for it. I mean, for example, Singapore has the highest IQ in the world, followed by Japan.
Singapore is some rich motherfuckers.
So?
Like, didn't they...
I don't want excuses, Rick.
It's cultural. It's frickin' cultural.
Okay,
it's cultural.
I don't want to hear PC excuses. I just want the facts.
The fact is that nobody knows what it is except that I believe it's most of it.
Well, you can believe what you want.
Yeah, but Stephen Molyneux is a fucking. He's not actually trained in the field. He interviewed
Richard. What is it, Murray? Richard
Charles Murray.
He interviewed Charles.
That guy's a conservative asshole, creepy motherfucker. He's.
You know what? And you're not talking like a scientist with a high IQ. You're talking like some weird stoned idiot.
No.
You're not giving me any supporting evidence whatsoever.
Look at Flynn.
Charles, we had this discussion.
We did.
Charles Murray has a view. There are a lot of people that agree with it. There is
racist motherfuckers agree with it. It's racist.
Is it racist for me to say that Japan has a higher IQ than the United States?
No, but it is racist to take it another couple steps and say, well, there's something in Japanese genes that makes their brains better.
He never says that. Nobody is saying that. All I want is the facts.
What does Charles Murray say? How does he explain it?
I don't know how he explains it.
But then you've told me, I've heard from you, from your face,
yes,
that maybe it was weather conditions in northern Europe that challenged, why did. Well,
that's Molyneux's theory, but no one can prove that.
No, it can't. But it's built into that is the idea that somehow like something happened and made white people smarter than people in Africa.
No, Asian people are smarter than white people.
Well, something must have happened.
According to every IQ test given in Japan, in America, doesn't matter where. Don't interrupt me. Asian people are smarter or have higher IQs than Caucasians. I'm not making this up because I'm a mean person. It's just the way it is.
Because they work their asses off.
Who cares why?
Well, because...
You come in here, you tell me that I'm a racist, then you say, no, you're not a racist, but you really are a racist. Yeah. And I tell you that, unfortunately, IQ tests given to different groups and nationalities come up with different results. And then you just go back to saying, but you're a racist, Lance. I'm not trying to discuss why I'm a racist or not a racist. Right. I'm just saying that there's nothing wrong with admitting that that there are differences in IQ between different groups. Why is that? Why does that?
There's a lot of problems.
You're a scientist. Right. Why can't you just face these facts without calling people a racist?
Because people use those differences.
I don't care what they do with it. I don't care what they do with it. It doesn't matter. Do you understand? The truth can be discussed openly.
All right, so
I don't care what your motives are or my motives are. Yes.
So aliens come to Earth.
Yeah.
And they say, we're immensely more, we can just wipe you out.
Yes.
So don't even bother fighting us. We're not going to wipe you out as long as you go along with us. We need you to appoint one leader of the entire world, or we're going to blow up the planet. Now, don't tell me that you wouldn't want somebody from Japan over somebody from Rwanda. Right? Because you think people from Singapore and Japan and from Asia have higher IQs. So, like, it's up to you, Lance. The aliens go to you and they say...
They do what?
They say, you need to pick somebody to run the world.
Yeah.
You're going to pick an Asian over an African, aren't you?
Did you know that there's only one group that does better than Asians when they come to the United States?
Who?
Nigerians.
Okay.
So I might pick a Nigerian, Rick.
Okay.
Does that make me a racist or not a racist?
Well, if you're looking at actual achievement, that's a different thing than IQ.
But you see, Rick, we're not talking about actual achievement or aliens. You came in here and called me a racist because I listened to people like Charles Murray that say there are different IQs for different races. Now, and then you say this is forbidden knowledge. Don't interrupt me.
Okay, all right.
You've been talking and you won't let me speak. You're not acting like a scientist. You're acting like a hippie kook.
Nope. No.
Okay, let me finish. Because you keep telling me that there's forbidden knowledge.
I didn't say that.
If, for example, we found out that men's IQs were higher than women, is that forbidden knowledge? Are we allowed to discuss it?
Well, I mean, wait, because I think you are, but the president of Harvard lost his job for discussing it.
Right, because people like you that are confused.
Yeah, but I'm not people like me.
Yeah, you're confused and foolish. You think that there should be things that we can't discuss. We have a show here where we're talking about things like IQ, but if I say something you don't agree with, all of a sudden I'm a racist.
No, here's what I'm saying. That IQ is not intelligence.
I don't care. I don't care. IQ was developed so that the Army could determine various people's abilities for various services. There's probably other reasons, the education early on.
And they did a shit job of it.
And they've tried to improve it. They've tried to improve it over the decades and centuries. The problem is that if there is a difference, we should find out what it is and why. What's wrong with that?
Because we're really bad at figuring out the why.
I see. So we shouldn't try to figure out how to get a spaceship on the moon either, because we're really bad at that too.
We're better at getting spaceships.
Okay. No, we're not. No, we're not. It's people like you that pretend to be logical and rational and scientific. No. They're actually so brainwashed, so PC, that we're not allowed to discuss certain subjects.
So you're going to tell me that somehow I'm brainwashed about IQ and I don't know shit about IQ, even though I know fucking everything about IQ.
Okay. Rick, are we allowed to discuss why different groups have different IQs?
Yeah, though it's...
And what if it turns out that some groups always score worse? Are we allowed to admit it?
Not without context, because Charles Murray may make... Charles Murray wrote the bell curve about 30 years ago, right?
I guess.
It's about, I don't know, probably that book minus the endnotes and footnotes and all that. It's probably 350 pages. But the people who cite it, how many actually read the frickin' book? It's a thing that gets picked up by amateurs and racists and people with bad agendas.
Ooh, forbidden knowledge. Someone might use that knowledge in a way you don't approve of.
Yeah, because it's used to support racist arguments.
I see. So knowledge that's used to support racist arguments must be forbidden by you.
It's not forbidden, but you have to talk about it in context.
Well, it's not forbidden, but if you say anything, then Rick can call you a racist and you can lose your job at Harvard. That's just great, Rick. Fascism marches on.
Is there a particular race that scores higher in IQ tests?
All right, whatever race is the race that busts its ass at the time in history. Asians are the new Jews. So Asians work hard. I mean, culturally, on average, Asians have, they make education and professional attainment a priority. Same as Jews have historically done over the past 100 years.
And which race dominates, would you say, in sporting and professional sports?
Statistically, and depending on the sport, you've got a predominance of African Americans in professional basketball.
And which race predominates in Nobel Peace Prizes, or Nobel Prizes in general? Nobel anything? Do you know?
Historically in America, I think you'd find Jews overrepresented. And it's hard to separate the emphasis that Jewish families put on education and professional achievement from possible genetic stuff. I mean, my kid took 23andMe. She sent some spit to them, and they have sent her they sent her a genetic profile, and then whenever they discover like some kind of genetic deal, they send her little bullet updates. They sent her an update like a month and a half ago, said, people with your genetic profile, which means my genetic profile, because half of her genes come from me, have a predisposition to pick at themselves, to attack their skin, and that. I was like, whoa, because when I get tired, I attack myself. Like, I look for zits that may or may not be there. I've got to. I did this on the airplane. It was like this. I did this. I do pick at myself.
Well, there's the question of, and this is for both of y'all, and then I'll be quiet. What does it mean to you when are all men are created equal? I mean, that's just a fundamental.
All right, so I got a dumb story about that. When I was in first grade, I was already nerdy, and it was already clear that I was socially awkward and likely and bullyable. People would bully me. And I was thinking about the Declaration of Independence, which says that all men are created equal. And the way I understood it in the context of what was happening to me in first grade was, all right, that makes sense, where I'm smart, but I'm terrible at sports, and I'm not great around other people, and that all men are created equal must mean that God has given everybody a roughly equal mix of good and bad characteristics. And mine is smart, but just like socially pathetic. But that was a 6-year-old's understanding of what that meant.
I'm just going to let that sink in.
Why? I was frickin' 6. For 6 years old, that's a kick-ass thought.
I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, okay.
Is there a question for me in all this?
Yeah, what does it mean, and what does all men are created equal mean for you, Lance?
I think we're all children of God. I think we're all possessed of a divine spirit that makes us equal before God. And I think that in practical terms, that affords us equal opportunity.
I agree with Lance on, that everyone should have.
So when the I'm so sorry.
Well, I agree with Lance in general that's the promise offered by America, that people should have opportunity. But based on practical experience, 25 years working in bars, for instance, that everyone is, everyone's human. And to be more specific about that, everyone is good up to a point. Everyone, and the point at which everyone quits being good is different for everybody, but everybody is a mix. Everybody's fallible. According to, I like to look at things statistically. Like, some of the bars I worked in were really popular, and so there was a line to get in. And there was an average amount of dickishness among the customers. You could put it on a bell curve. Like, it was only the occasional person who was a complete douchebag trying to get into the bar. And I could see that as part of a model. Like, some people were fantastically nice, even if you made them stand and wait for 35 minutes to get into a bar. And most people were average levels of pissed offness, like if people were waiting for 30, 40 minutes and they saw people get in ahead of them, they're like, hey, well, what's that? And it's like, no, they work here, they can come in, it's part of the, it's like, and it was, you'd see a distribution, a very human distribution of characteristics. Most people are mostly good until faced with temptation or agitation, and then people break at different levels, with most people being average in terms of fallibility.
So when they say that the Oscars are too white, and then does that mean that the blacks are being excluded? So then all of a sudden the Oscars are too black, or there's white and black, but there's not enough Hispanics in the Oscars. So I mean, how do you, Lance and Rick,
well, the Oscars have always been goofy, and I mean, giving awards for creative work, having people vote on creative work and then give awards for that stuff has always been really tricky. For instance, there's a rumor that I think, I buy this. I don't know that, I don't 100% buy it, but I think there's a reasonable chance that Rin Tin Tin won the first Oscar for Best Actor. Rin Tin Tin was a German Shepherd who was the most amazing animal actor in the history of movies. And there are rumors that he won the first, in 1927 or so, the first Oscar vote, and they had to throw out the vote and give it to somebody else. Otherwise, the first year that they gave this award and it goes to a dog would have wrecked the prestige of the award. Then you get into the argument about, you want to give people equal opportunities. You want things to be fair. And then you run into, issues about quotas. Where is it fair for Ivy League colleges to basically discriminate against Asians because Asians come in with, on average, better credentials compared to everybody else? So there's reverse affirmative action for Asians. And it's what really should happen, I'm going to dance around the question, is frickin' the class size of these Ivy League schools, these rich-ass Ivy League schools, I don't think they've changed significantly in decades. Harvard, Columbia, Yale, Princeton, they all admit about 1,600 freshmen every year. Why don't they take their billion-dollar endowments and use it to expand the size of their classes? Let in 2,000, raise it like 5% a year for the next 10 years. So more people have the opportunity to go to one of these kick-ass schools. They're rich enough to do it.
I would just like to say, people have been asking me, what the fuck with Rick? I mean, what the fuck? And I just want to explain it.
Which specific fuck?
I'll explain it. When I was young, I read this article about the man with the highest IQ in history.
William Sidis?
Is this the guy from the 19th century that was raised by a father that was obsessed with intelligence?
Yeah, and then he ended up working for the post office and collecting bus passes.
That's the guy,
yeah.
William Sidis.
Well, he gets that. Okay, go ahead. We can talk
anyway,
about it.
What happened was this. He was incredibly brilliant. He knew all these languages. He could do math at, college level when he was 3, or, all the qualifications of someone incredibly brilliant. And what happened was, by the time he was like 16, I believe the story goes, he was completely neurotic, and he wound up his only accomplishment was he became obsessed with railway tickets that people used and discarded in the old city he lived in, because he saw patterns in these railway tickets, and he wrote this book. This was his achievement, was writing a book about railway tickets. And I realized that Rick's interest in fake IDs is the same thing. And that's why he refers to it so much. We're actually victims of something that happens when the IQ gets too high.
No, well, let's talk about Sidis, because he's an example of cherry-picking biographical details to fit a model. And the model about Sidis is that, guy with super high IQ is too fucked up to actually do anything in the world. Now, so deal one is...
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm saying about you.
But hold on, because Sidis died of a brain hemorrhage in his 50s. So he didn't have time to fully bring things to fruition. But even so, he'd written an unpublished but a multi-volume history of some damn thing, and it wasn't train passes, though he did enjoy collecting those, or transfers. But he'd written he was working on an opus, a big important book, and then he had a bleed in his brain that killed him before he could bring that to fruition.
Excuses.
And people are allowed to have fun hobbies. And frickin' I loved busting people lying to me with fake IDs.
All right.
But, and I hope to, if I, get to live a few more years, I hope to bring some stuff that isn't ridiculous to fruition.
For Lance, in terms of the same question, do you think your father could have been, in the year 2017, your father would have been nominated for 2 Oscars in the same year?
He was nominated for 1 Oscar against himself.
Right.
And the other nominee was Ingmar Bergman, and I think Billy Wilder or some other giant in the film industry.
In today's culture, do you think that would have happened?
I think the Oscars are garbage, and they became garbage around 20 years ago. They became politicized because the left makes everything. Being a leftist is like a religion, and so they're constantly looking for. They constantly look for their leftist themes in work. So if Shakespeare was to write a film, but it supported a conservative theme, it couldn't possibly win an award. But if somebody lacking in any talent was to write an incredibly politically correct story, it would be a nominee. So that's the way it's going. So I don't give any credibility to the Oscars anymore, because I know that it's just all about PC now. And also, a lot of the modern films, as Rick and I have discussed, are basically just left-wing rants. And
you want to give some examples?
We've had this discussion.
I mean, because I can give you one example of a movie that people went crazy for, and I think it won a bunch of stuff. I don't think it won Best Picture, but it might have. Avatar. And I mean, if I were you, I'd use that as an example.
Thank you. I wasn't thinking of that, but that's a good one.
Yeah, but sometimes, I mean, the trouble with the Oscars, outside of what you're saying, but what you're saying is rolled into it a little bit, is The Oscars, you only have a few months to consider a film. And often a more reasonable consensus develops over a longer period, over a period of years, about what films are good and what films are crap. And over the years, people have decided that, well, James Cameron is a genius director, but he shouldn't write his own movies, or he should bring in people to rewrite him, because Titanic is a great movie, but the central love story is the least great thing about it. And Avatar does some great things, but the story is one that you would be able to argue is kind of, the military super bad, like blue people who live in the trees, innocent and, good. Somebody could have added some depth and dimension and not made it just a,
Yeah, thank you.
And it's crazy when you look at what movies win Best Picture for the year, and compared to what movies people think were great from that year 10 years later.
I mean, I remember Lincoln was up against Birdman, and Birdman won, which was unwatchable. It was unendurable. But it was about the film industry, and it was left wing, and so they loved it. I remember what was that movie with Lupita, the black, about slavery, 7 Years a Slave or something like that.
12 Years a Slave.
But yeah, was that the one where she gets
I don't know, because I didn't see it.
Anyway, any movie about slavery is going to get an award. I think.
So you saw it and you didn't like it, even though it was based on a true story and everything?
I don't. 12 Years a Slave was different. I mean, there were several different slave movies, and I don't want to go on record as confusing them. Some were good, some weren't. So
all slave movies look the same.
Okay, so I'm just saying that any film that that has and also these future movies. Every future movie is about how the Republicans somehow destroyed the world, and now dedicated feminists are trying to save it. But it's like either incredibly cold outside or incredibly hot.
All right,
and people from other planets who are also feminist Democrats come to try to help. So that's another thing.
All right, hold on. Let me agree
with every
with you.
Film that I see.
Well, no, let me agree with you without the political stuff. One problem is that people who aren't well versed in thinking, or who haven't done a lot of thinking about the future, and who aren't well versed in science fiction, are often the people in a position to. People who don't know shit about the future in science fiction often are the people who hold the reins and decide what gets made, or are writing the screenplays. And so you get a bunch of hacky, teen dystopia stuff.
Wait, I've got more to say. Do you know this week, unless you had a point?
Well,
was that the point?
I mean, there is politics wrapped up in that, but there's another set of problems in that you don't. Producers are not experts in. Sometimes you get a thoughtful, like for instance, Her, or is it she? Is it her? It's Her, right? Where the guy falls in love with Scarlett Johansson, the voice on his phone.
Yeah,
Her. All right, so it's not the best movie in the world, but it's pretty good in and isn't super hacky, because the director, what, Spike Jonze, right? Writer director? No, am I thinking I get that wrong? Whoever did it. Didn't go too far afield, didn't go outside of his area of being able to think about stuff. It's only about 10 years in the future. They shot it in Singapore, where all the Asians are really smart, because Singapore looks like the future. But it had modest ambitions for trying to capture the future, and thus avoided a lot of the big mistakes about the future, where it's, you know,
everybody has a flying car.
No, well, usually it's cheaper to show a dystopian future where everything's been wiped out, and you get Denzel Washington to walk around the desert in a long black leather trench coat. And that's just like hacky amateurism. And part of hacky amateurism is perhaps having some unexamined, liberal beliefs, at least, the things that sneak into your, I just watched a big chunk of the Hunger Games earlier today. It was on at where I was in the hotel gym I was using. And yeah, it's that same deal. And it's like, or there was another one that's Divergent, all those teen dystopias, it's never you're right. It's almost I've never seen one, though there might be one, where it's a liberal dictatorship. It's always
don't change the subject, because I have something to say.
Okay.
Am I reading? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I actually had, because I got to step back to do this, so I'm going to yell. I'm not actually yelling at Rick, although I might at any second, but I'm just yelling so my voice will get to the mic. I actually had proof of one of my theories this week, one of my controversial theories. A couple of weeks ago, or months ago, I actually suggested that Disney was taken over by left-wingers and was promoting bizarre left-wing agendas. And, it sounds kooky. Like, why would Disneyland be altering Lincoln's speech so that he doesn't mention God? And why would Disneyland be try to say that in the pirate ride, the women are pirates and they're all afraid, and the male pirates are afraid of them? Why would they be having all these gay days? That's days when.
All right, so what's your proof?
30,000 homosexuals show up at Disneyland on the same day. Why would Disney take the Star Wars franchise and turn it into a feminist diatribe? And this week, Bob Iger, the head of Disney, actually admitted that ESPN has gotten way too political and that it really should just be a sports show, a sports network. And I think that the reason he's admitting that is because people like myself and thousands of other conservatives are saying, look, Disney, why do you need to use your children's programming and sports programming to promote left-wing political ideas? It's not part of any rational business model, and it's not appreciated or necessary. And they finally, the head of the company has admitted it, at least about ESPN. So anybody out there that thinks that I'm just some kind of crazy conservative kook that's looking for, reasons to hate homosexuals or sees strange anti-religious conspiracies, no, I'm right. Bob Iger has basically admitted it.
Well, Bob Iger said one thing about one Disney property.
Right, and that's the proof I need.
Anyway, Disney is, I think, is mostly interested in, they like doing great creative stuff. They aspire to that, and they sometimes hit it. They also like making an ass load of money.
Yeah, and it doesn't, let me tell you something. Changing the pirate ride so that the pirates would all be afraid of the females, that instead of chasing the girls,
yeah,
they're afraid of the girls. That does not make them an assload more money. All it does is make the feminist VPs and presidents feel like they're contributing something to the feminist revolution.
Well, it probably saves them a hassle.
No, it doesn't. They're doing it on purpose. They don't make one more penny.
I haven't even.
They don't make one more penny.
I started trying to make a point half an hour ago. Here's my point. How is your point of view going to hold up? The trend historically across a couple thousand years is to extend the golden rule to more and more types of humans, and even some animals, where the hegemony of the ruling of the elite gets, no, to put it in more basic terms.
Is it my fault that it takes you hours to get to a point?
No, but yeah, kind of, because you're all ready to go because you listen to 50 hours a week of conservative podcasts, so you're always loaded for bear. But
okay.
The deal is...
Get to the point.
The point is that when you look at the trend of people given human rights, it starts with white guys giving other white guys human rights, and then gradually more and more rights are given to women and minorities and the differently gendered and the handicapped. And perhaps, it extends to maybe kindness towards animals. It's the golden rule.
Please get to the point, Rick.
The fucking deal is, in the future.
Yes, the future.
All the things, all the little sticking points that your podcasters get hung up on.
Yes.
Like gender, sexual orientation, race. All that stuff is going to become infinitely mutable, changeable. That we're going to have a biotech revolution.
Could you please get to the point?
The point is that people are going to be able to be whomever they want in the future. And you, with your conservative values, you don't want to grant gay people certain rights and privileges.
I don't want them to be able to get married.
Yeah.
That's it.
But the arc of history is that people get more freedoms, and that more and more people are dealt with empathetically and compassionately. And
wait, that's not all. I don't want a gay couple to be able to adopt a child when there is a heterosexual couple available.
Okay. I mean, I'm not agreeing with that, but okay.
And I don't want gay scoutmasters.
So you put all these...
So those are three things I don't want.
You don't want these restrictions on gay people.
And the reason is that I think a baby deserves to be raised by a female and a male so that it will be better adjusted psychologically to its future. I don't think scoutmasters should be gay because they should not be out alone in the woods with young men they may be attracted to, any more than I think heterosexual men should be scout counselors to girls, to Girl Scouts. So those are two rights I don't think they should have. I don't think gay people should be able to get married, because I think that if you're going to do that, then you basically don't have an institution of marriage. Then any combination of people should be able to get married. Adult brother and sister and polygamy. It just becomes a circus. So those are 3 rights I don't think you should be able to have if you're gay.
Except in the future, gender and sexual orientation. Any kind of physical...
Okay, you know what? I think we know what you're saying, Rick.
Yeah,
Can
okay.
I respond now?
Well,
Can I respond now?
I guess, but like, how are you, like, there were, okay, one more thing. Like, under slavery, there were all sorts of arguments.
I'm not for slavery.
No, but I'm saying the historical trends are similar in that there were all sorts of arguments in defense of to support slavery, that black people could not, they were inferior, they could not.
So I'm a racist, and the future is against racists like me. Is that your point?
It's against people who take any of these characteristics that are going to be...
What characteristics am I against, Rick?
You want to deny gay people certain rights.
do. I want to deny them the ability to be scoutmasters, the ability to adopt a child if a heterosexual couple is available, and the ability to get married. Anything else, Rick?
I'm saying 100
No,
years from...
I don't want to be lumped in with every Nazi you've ever read about. I want you to tell me the rights that I'm against. Now!
You just...
Right this second!
You just listed them.
Yeah, I want to know if there are any other rights. Am I against people being black? Should they be slaves?
No, but...
Okay, what other rights?
Let me make my fucking point, Lance.
I've given you an hour. You've been calling me a
but
racist since you walked in. Would you please get to the point?
No, you say I haven't been calling... I just said you're not a racist. But the deal is that under slavery...
Everybody watching this knows that you're calling me a racist. Would you please tell me what I'm against? What am I against?
You're against... You don't want gayness to further infect our society.
I would like gayness to be treated as something that happens to a minority of people, and that people that are gay should be treated fairly. They should not be able to get married. They should not be able to adopt a baby if a heterosexual couple is available. Does that make me a Nazi?
No.
Okay. And by the way, Obama and Hillary Clinton agreed with me
at certain points
up until 4 years ago. So if I am a son of a bitch, then so is Obama and Hillary Clinton, the people you voted for. And the people of California, given the opportunity, agreed with me in several referendums. So 50% of the country agree with me. We're all Nazis, according to you.
You like to... No, you're the one who's saying that I'm calling you a Nazi.
No, you came in here and you lumped in race. You lumped in race. We can go back in the tape. You came in here and you said, Lance, slavery was a problem, and you're against these certain trends that involve race and choices of sexuality. Yeah, you did. You called me a racist, right. Rick. And then when I called you about it, you said, no, I didn't.
You just listened to racists, like Stephen.
Oh, that's right. And you said I listened. I
Murray.
forgot. That was one I didn't forget. I didn't list that. That's right. That's right. And then you said I listened to racists. So I guess I must be a racist, right? That's what it all boils down to, right, Rick? So you're right.
So
you win the debate because I'm a racist,
Flynn.
right?
You don't listen to fucking Flynn.
I listened to Flynn. I listened to an hour and a half of Flynn.
Because I asked you to.
Yeah. I didn't know that there was a Flynn. I heard him. I heard Charles Murray. I'm not prepared to make a decision on who is right.
But here's the deal, because you start yelling at me before I can finish my point. All the arguments that black people couldn't manage themselves, most of those were wiped away along with slavery. The justifications for slavery were wiped away historically. When it became clear that black people were no different.
Rick, am I against black people?
No.
Was it the Democrats or the Republicans?
No, don't leave that shit out. The Democrats, yeah, they were racist 150 years ago. Don't fucking...
There's still poverty pimps today. It's because of blacks it's because of the Democrats that blacks have done poorly. The Democrats have hindered black advancement at every turn.
What I'm saying is,
when the Democrats bring in illegal aliens, it is the blacks that suffer the most financially.
What I'm saying is, in the future, when people can choose when people can change characteristics, when people can get genetic tweaks and whatever else, use medical technology and whatever technology, or live in cyberspace and
yes, Rick. What? What?
When people
what's the question?
When people become infinitely mutable,
yes.
How are your fucking standards?
I don't give a flying fuck. That's my answer. I don't care. When people become immutable and changeable, I don't care. I don't want gay marriage. That's it. Anything else, Rick?
Yeah, so what of your shit survives the
what shit? Be specific. My racism?
You're taking a stand on the basis of
what?
Of sexual orientation.
Sexual orientation. I'm against gay marriage. Anything else, Rick?
And two other things. Yeah,
what?
You distrust gays.
I've never said that I distrust gays.
All right, you don't trust gay men around boys.
And I don't trust heterosexual men around girls. Does that make me heterophobic? Or homophobic?
To some extent.
No, it makes me fair. I don't want to put people into environments where they're alone on a camping trip with the sex that they're attracted to.
All right, leave that
and I don't even want women alone to be scout counselors for boys either. And I don't want any of the combinations. I don't want lesbians or heterosexual men in charge of Girl Scouts, and I don't want homosexual men or heterosexual females in charge of Boy Scouts. So I'm not unfair.
All right, so let's...
So what exactly makes me a Nazi? Could you please get to the point?
You're the one saying that I'm calling you a Nazi.
No, because you're not coming up with anything. I'm against gay marriage, and I'm against gay scout counselors. That doesn't make me some sort of...
You think, is it a problem
that black people and white people get married or have sex with one another? No, I'm okay with that.
Why don't you let me fucking finish a sentence?
Well,
Lance,
if you
let
would...
me fucking finish.
Please,
is it a problem?
Yeah, what?
That Singapore has a higher average IQ than Rwanda.
I'm not losing sleep over it, Rick.
But you listen to people telling you about that. They consider it something that
I don't listen to anybody. I know it to be true. I have known for a long time, since I was a young man, that different countries have different IQs. It ranges about 10 points.
And you say it's something we need to study and figure out how to fix, right?
Sure.
All right. So what happens in the future when anybody can get access to any kind of information processing power that they want?
Nothing. Everything's fine. Except I'm a racist.
Well, I mean, why is that an issue?
Why are you making it an issue?
Because I'm asking, what of your conservative values survive the next 100, 200 years? Survive the tide of history? Like 100 years from now.
We'll be trying to make black people slaves again, right, Rick?
No, but 100 years from now.
Because I'm a Nazi. 100 years from now.
200 years from now. When people look back on this era in history.
Yeah.
Do they see the current Republican?
They will wonder why it was so controversial that a baby would be better off with a male and a female raising it.
You really think that that's going to...
Yeah, they'll think that it's common sense
by then,
for a mother and a father to raise a baby. They'll think that it's child abuse to tell a child that it should be cutting off its genitals and being the different gender. Yeah, that's child abuse. It's child abuse. You are actually the destructive one, Rick. You're the one that thinks that children should be able to decide their gender and should be able to chop. You're the one that thinks they should be able to chop their genitals off and change gender. You're the one that wants to hurt children, not me. I'm the one that wants them to have a mother and a father. I'm the one that wants them to be able to cope with the fact that they have the genitals they were born with. My values are healthy for children. Yours aren't. Yours are sick.
The future has people being able to change gender.
And it's sick. And my values will survive because they are what is best for humanity. There will come a time when people will say it's sick to let kids decide their gender and chop their genitals off. They'll say it's sick. And laws will be passed by Republicans to prevent such a thing.
Kids aren't chopping off their genitals when they're kids. Last week, I talked to you about puberty blockers that give kids more time.
It's sick. It's sick. Republican values will hopefully surmount yours, and children will be protected from confused individuals like yourself that want to delay the onset of their puberty, which is sick and unhealthy. So Republican values are the values of the future if you do care about children. And if you care about children, you will admit that a child is better off being raised by a female and a male, not two males, not two females.
Why?
Because the psychology of the child must be influenced by both genders in order to adjust to the different genders they will encounter in adulthood.
So a kid with two dads or two moms doesn't run into anybody of any other...
Not in the same way. The parent is the primary cultivator of the child's psychology.
According to
every single school of psychology in the world, the parent is vital. And if you remove the male or you remove the female, the child suffers. And you want that, and you imagine that you're enlightened. You want that for the children. You don't care about the children. You haven't thought it through. Or you're so confused that you don't see the flaw in your argument. Every single psychological school says that the development of the child depends on the parents.
Okay, it makes...
The Freudians, the Jungians, the Adlerians, all psychological schools, all modern psychology.
Freud is modern. Freud's largely debunked and 100 years old.
Okay. All modern psychology, no matter what school it's from, believes that the influence of the parent is vital in the child's development.
But you don't... But
and I say that to raise healthy children, they need a male and a female.
You say that.
No, I say it because it's backed up by all the psychological schools.
Who? Don't give me Freud, who has been, Freud was dead by 1920-something. It's 100 years later. Jung.
All right, I'll tell you what, Rick. I don't want to have to go to the internet about this. I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you think that a child will have a better understanding of humanity if it's raised by a male and a female, or if it's raised by two men or two women?
I think a child has a better understanding.
Don't you dare change the subject. You know nothing else. Nothing else. All parents are equal. All parents are equal financially and emotionally. They're all good parents. Two of them are male and female. No, two of them are male, because we're passing a law here, Rick. Two of them are male and female, and the other two are either both male or both female. Which is better for the psychology of the child?
The same-sex couples.
Okay, why is that?
Because it's more important that a kid be raised by non-assholes than assholes.
Okay, that is the most bigoted, foolish statement you've made in 100 episodes. Because there is no proof it is irrational to compare apples and oranges. I stopped you 5 minutes ago, and I said, don't change the issue.
All right. So
then I said, both parents are equal, both emotionally and financially.
You can't
so in
say
order
that.
to win the argument,
You
you had to
can't
change.
say-
You had to change
No,
the argument.
you can't say that.
No. I'm saying both parents are good. Both parents are good.
You can't. You're building in an assumption.
Yeah, because the law can't be made.
A kid raised by the most human people, the most empathetic and understanding people.
Great. What if they happen? What if it? Okay, you have two couples come in, and they're both wonderful. Who do you give the kid to? The male and the female, or the two guys?
To me, that's a coin flip.
Coin toss. Okay, so you think that this baby is going to grow up and go out into the world with an understanding, with a psychology, an understanding of the two genders they're going to have to encounter. And they're going to be better off or equal with two guys? Mm-hmm. So you don't think mommies are very important, do you, Rick?
That's not what I'm saying.
Well, actually you are, because you're saying that two daddies is just as good as a mommy and a daddy. So I guess the mommy's not necessary.
Entirely that you want people who...
Both couples are loving. Both couples are equally good. Now answer the question, Rick.
Then I just did.
It's a toss-up. So mommies aren't important. They don't bring characteristics, right? Is that what you're saying? So women do not bring special characteristics to the development of a child, right? It's better to have two guys, or just as good.
I think outweighing the...
They're both equally good. They're both equally good. Come on.
Yeah, go.
So you don't need a mommy, and you don't need a daddy. The two genders do not bring special characteristics to the psychology of the baby.
Need smart, considerate.
They're all smart. They're both smart and considerate.
So,
you cannot weasel out.
So I'm going to say stop there. Yeah. So yeah.
So males and females do not bring characteristics that help the child develop psychologically. Is that what you're saying, Mr. High IQ?
I'm saying given.
That they're both equal. Both equal. Do you want your baby to have a mommy and a daddy, or two daddies?
I want the kid to have two people who aren't assholes.
They're both equally good.
Then fine, you keep asking me the question. I keep answering.
Aren't there going to be any homosexual assholes?
Yeah, but I would think that given the current...
The homosexuals are nicer than heterosexuals? Is that what you're saying?
I would argue
that
in the it gets better era, which we're still in,
yeah,
that, I mean, sure, there are plenty of gay assholes.
Really?
But that most gay people have suffered emotionally.
Which makes them better parents, huh?
I would think that they would have, they'd be more statistically likely to be empathetic.
So you're going to give our babies to the gay parents? You prefer the gay parents?
No, you said the two parents are equally good.
They're equally good.
All right, so
you can't answer the question.
I've answered it 50 fucking times.
Okay, so what you're saying is women do not bring anything to child rearing that is unique to their gender.
I'm saying decency outweighs...
No, equally decent. Decent gay guy, decent mommy. Do you want your baby to have a mommy and a daddy?
I gotta say, it's still a coin toss. Now, thinking about what I would prefer if I were a kid. I'm an old guy. I might not be able to deal with as easily. I was born in 1960, where you were born in.
I see. So for yourself, You'd like a mommy and a daddy, wouldn't you, Rick?
Just because I'm old and it takes me...
Oh, thank you, Rick. A moment of clarity breaking through the brainwashing. It isn't politically correct, but something deep inside you is managing to crack through to the surface. So for your own self, given all of the terrible things about yourself, somewhere in there you know you'd rather have a mommy and a daddy than two daddies. Right,
grew up
Rick?
in the 60s and the 70s.
Oh, I know, the bad old days.
Dude, cut out the fucking evangelical arm movement bullshit.
I'm just so happy because you're learning. You're growing.
No, I got called
You're
a fag so
breaking
many
through.
times and a homo and all
Okay,
that stuff.
okay.
So,
But you know you'd rather have a mommy and a daddy than two daddies, right, Rick?
just because I was...
Who cares why?
I do, because I grew up in the 60s.
Do you think there are any other little babies that might need a mommy and a daddy as well?
No, not now.
Not now.
2018.
No. All the babies are going to be given, do not need mommies and daddies because mommies don't bring anything special to child rearing that they can't get from a gay guy.
You said that Carol and I are decent parents. You've said it more than once, right?
I'm beginning to doubt it, but go ahead.
Are we good parents because we're a man and a woman?
Partly. That's a basic you can hope for a baby.
It's not because...
Carol brings something different than you do, doesn't she?
I don't want to go into why Carol's a great mom because some of that's private.
Sure, but she does, doesn't she? Don't mommies bring something special to child rearing?
It has more to do with Carol's individual personality.
How about across the whole of the United States? Would you rather have two lesbians raising a boy or a daddy and a mommy? Equally good.
No, you can't.
No, they're equally good. They're equally good because there'll be good people.
If they're both not assholes, then it's a coin toss.
Then it's a coin toss. So you don't think that a father brings anything special to raising a baby? Something that only a dad can do. Right, Rick?
It's the
before you answer
it's not their gender or sexual.
Before you answer the question, I'm going to tell you that 95% of prison inmates were raised without a father. Did you know that? 95%.
Okay.
Well above the national average.
Okay.
So maybe fathers do bring something.
Maybe two parents bring something. Maybe
No.
the
It actually works out that it's the male gender that brings something to disciplining the boy. But you don't think that's important. You just think two lesbians would be equally good as a mommy and a daddy.
Do you have any lesbian parent studies, or you just have single parent studies? Do you have two gay guys studies, or do you just have single...
Listen. We can look into it on the internet, but you're the second smartest man in the world. Why don't you just tell me your common sense? Do you think daddies bring anything that women don't bring to raising a baby? Do you think do you think that 95% of those guys would be in prison if they had a male father living with them?
You're arguing about two different things. You're saying single parent is But
yeah, and I think daddies are good to raise children. I do. I think they should. I think they're better than two lesbians.
Yeah.
All right, let's change the subject.
Well,
let's break. Unless you have something to add.
Yeah, I just you were talking about the future and stuff, and do you feel that in the future? Well, what is going to be the ramifications of the future in terms of what's going on with the Kavanaugh hearings?
No, you're just trying to segue.
No, well, yeah, I'm trying to segue. I'll just cut to the chase. What is your perspective right now in terms of the Kavanaugh? Do you think he's guilty? And in fact, if you do think he's guilty, do you think it's the presumption of guilt before innocence is now the new norm, or?
I think we should break and come back to that as a new subject.
Okay, sure.
All right.
What time is it?
And
all right, so we got a late start because my plane just landed, like I keep saying, so we have to cut this session short. And, okay.
Not yet.
All right. You want me to say it again?
No, you're fine.
All right. So anyway, we got to wrap. We can't talk. We're out of time. We'll talk about Kavanaugh next session.
So in short, where do you stand right now? Because by the time we meet, the Thursday hearing would have already happened.
Well, I mean, I'm not a fan of Kavanaugh, obviously, but the details. I mean, we have to argue back and forth. Just you like Kavanaugh, right, Lance?
I think the Democrats are scum, and they're perfectly happy to find some batshit crazy activist woman that will accuse him of anything if they can manage to keep the Supreme Court. That's their goal, and they will lie and lie and lie. I think they should just prove him and never accept any more of these crazy accusations.
He's the least popular.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It's the Democrats that control the media and then take the poll.
The woman
has no evidence whatsoever.
Brought up the assault in 2012.
And she didn't mention his name.
And again in 2013.
And did you know that Kavanaugh's mother was a judge that foreclosed on the Kavanaugh's on the woman's house, on the woman's parents' house? The Kavanaugh's mother was a judge that foreclosed on the woman's parents' house.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, that's just a little fact that they don't tell you. So maybe,
but it's a little fact.
So maybe there's a little motivation there, huh?
But why would it motivate her to bring it up?
And notice how the Democrats don't know a fucking thing. Let me get this straight. Kavanaugh's mother throws out this woman and her parents from their house in a foreclosure, and the Democrats don't tell you that, do they?
Who told you?
News to you.
Who told you that?
I've heard it on 3 different sources.
All right, but
think of how they're brainwashing you, Rick. That is the most important fact in the whole thing, and you didn't know it. They didn't tell you. She has a motivation to lie.
She brought it up in therapy in 2012.
And she didn't mention his name. And she did not mention his name in the therapy. In the therapy, she did not mention the name.
Who says that?
It was on the news. What am I supposed to do, Rick?
What news? Because the therapist is not allowed to mention the guy's name because of confidentiality. But she, as far as I know...
Rick, let's cut to the chase. Do you want high school kids to be blamed for things? Do you want people in their 50s that have had impeccable records to be blamed for things they did?
He's not so impeccable.
Should be blamed for things they did when they were in high school. Do you want that, Rick? Is that how smart you are? Answer the question.
You didn't rape anybody in high school. You didn't try to rape anybody in high school. I didn't try to rape anybody in high school. It
doesn't matter anymore, Rick. If you're a Republican, the Democrats will make shit up about you that you did when you were 17. Is that the world you want to live in?
That's not what's going on here.
I'm done.
All right. I'll see you next week.